this makes more sense to me, so I'm just gonna go with it, right? People are just
What don't
choosing
make
what they're
dollars
comfortable
don't make
with.
sense to the industry, my boy. They don't sign unless it make money and streams. And if it's good and it gets streams, they sign it.
Fuck. It's gonna be brutal.
Black rappers are often better than other races.
Wow.
I think it's a racist point of view to say that that it's often better. There are so many dope rappers that are black. There are so many dope rappers that are not black. Like, I don't think the color of your skin determines your penmanship skill.
So much of the narratives that built and birthed hip hop is also what built and birthed black community and black folk.
If you black and you come from that and that's your struggle and that's your story and it connects with the history of being, oppressed, then you will always have that advantage, from the viewer's standpoint, but I wouldn't say just because of being black makes you better.
I like Lil Nas X.
To not respect how he's marketed himself and how he's bigged himself up, using the tools at his disposal, but he's just leveraged it in such a smart way.
Like, I think that's so important to remember that hip hop was never about just, are you the nicest with a pen? It was just yo, do you make things that people enjoy?
Nah, I agree with everything being said. As another queer rapper who does a lot of gender bending and stuff like that, I think Lil Nas X has opened up a lane for other rappers alike that can thrive now because of that in the mainstream. Memo had Old Town Road blasting in the car when he was driving up.
Hell.
Having a couple of songs on SoundCloud does not make you a rapper.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't consider myself a rapper until I started making real money off that shit. So.
I mean, for me, you're a rapper if you rap. You can have no songs out anywhere. If you rap, you're a rapper. That's the way that I see it.
Then you on the wrong side.
Yeah, you're on the
You
you're
should
supposed
be
to be
over
over
here.
here.
Oh, my fault.
If you just in your heart have been resonating with hip hop and you've been writing your whole life and building that just for yourself, then you're a rapper.
Hey, but not everybody on SoundCloud did that. I agree. You can have just a couple of songs on SoundCloud and totally be a rapping ass rapper. But you could also have a couple of songs and you put no time into them, and then, it's not enough for me.
I shouldn't have smoked. I got cotton mouth like a motherfucker. Yeah, I can't even lie.
Really though, you should have shared, but it's
Yeah,
all good.
hey.
It's okay to call women bitches in lyrics. 3, 2, 1, go.
The reason I agree is because I think you should be able to say whatever the fuck you want in your lyrics, you know what I'm saying? If you're okay to stand on what you say, then stand on it and say it,
Yeah, it shouldn't be censored. It's just again, you asked the question, do we think it's okay? They think
You'll
it's
have to
okay.
deal with
we
the
don't- yeah.
consequences if you say something that's messed up.
Talk about it.
If you got a white person, nigga, right? Then they got to deal with the consequences, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's on them.
It's just you
That's
gotta
on
stand
them.
on what you say,
I feel like the culture we in is that's just the type of people you be around. Girls be yo, you that bitch, drop that shit. You know what I mean? They be hyping each other up. I don't think it's ever in such a disrespectful way. And I guess it's kind of it's like a filler word it can be, but
Hey, well, be a
it's
better
just-
writer then, don't rely on
It's
the
just
filler
ca-
words, you know what I mean?
I definitely don't rely on anything, but it's just you know what I mean? It helps get the point across and just
But I think in the larger scheme of things, the majority of times where I'm hearing the word bitch and rap and hip hop is degrade women. You just go line after line and it's just yo, fuck these bitches, don't trust these hoes. It's just it's not I'm uplifting my bitches. It's there's not a lot of that. But I do think it's important, and I think it's important as creatives of any genre to understand that our music exists beyond ourselves. So our intention is not always gonna be received the way that we think it is.
I don't think any of us in here are being yo, I hate women. Or yo, I'm trying to be bad to women. But I do,
No,
right, but I think that the question is what does okay mean? What it comes down to for me is just personally, I'm not gonna put that in my records. I'm not gonna put that in my music, in my
And
vibe.
that's dope, homie.
Word,
yeah,
thank you.
For anyone,
But,
whatever you want to do is dope, in my opinion, for any artist.
Yeah.
If you want to say some fucked up, I think we need crazy people to say crazy shit sometimes. Fucking Dance with the Devil.
Of course, that's one of the first.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we can
Wild.
all agree that that's one of the hardest songs of hip hop history, right? But I think we can also all agree that what he's talking about is not right. But I think the culture needs the ability to let people express themselves. So we have, these big. Or else it would be it'd be too bland.
It's hard to rap about something other than money, sex, or drugs. 3, 2, 1, go.
Rap about what you want to rap about. Like, I think you're limited as an artist if you're gonna say like those are the only things that I'm out there, and that would be stupid. If you want to rap about that, that's fine too.
That's the only reason I'm over here, because it's not hard. It's definitely not hard. But I think it's what people want to hear, you know? And it's like, if you want to get in this industry and make a successful living off of it, at a certain point, you got to say what the fuck people want to hear, you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone wants money. Everybody want to have sex. Everybody does have sex. A lot of people do drugs, or they've been impacted by drugs. So I think it's just inevitable that it comes out a lot, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, I mean, I just completely disagree with the question, right? Because I think, like, we've been talking about Lil Nas X. Old Town Road is just, I don't even, you know, it's just a Western song. And then, like, I think there's so many lanes right now that even if you're looking for success, Memo, like, I think there's niches.
How did those people come up, though? They didn't come up talking about all that spiritual woke shit. J. Cole didn't come out talking about that woke shit.
Actually, J. Cole might have.
No, J. Cole might have, yeah. J. Cole might have.
Kanye definitely did. And success is also such a spectrum of what the hell does that shit mean? Success, like the 1% of artists that are making millions of dollars per feature, or also completely eating and living and paying all your bills that you need to, and also got some money to vacay and pay for the album.
And
but you know,
fans.
and have fans
Yeah,
and have
like-
a sustainable career, right? And in that way, you absolutely can be successful in having a niche market. I mean, I'm doing it right now.
Hip hop is misogynistic. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh man.
There are a shit ton of misogynistic artists, misogynistic lyrics, misogynistic songs, misogynistic practices. There's a shit ton of work to be done in terms of like what that narrative and how we influence people to think and not to think, but I can't say that the whole culture is misogynist. I mean, we're all hip hop, all of us here, right? I'm not a misogynist.
So whenever I hear like a question about hip hop, I always think about what Mos Def said in '99 on Black on Both Sides, right? He said, yo, people ask me, Mos, how's hip hop doing? Like it's a giant living up in the mountain, like it's some creature. And he's like, hip hop is the people. You know, I do think that it's a problematic question though, because why are you singling out hip hop for that? You know, I think the world is misogynistic. I think that country music is misogynistic.
Absolutely. When do we start making the choice as individuals to look for that, to seek out, to not even just be complicit in, oh, well, that's just how it is. We also have to make that extra effort to bring them around. We, as gatekeepers in our own communities, with our own genres, in our own, cities, we have to be the ones to move forward. And until we do, then
I don't know, like I've always thought that whole like step an extra way to go do certain things, like me like going to get a woman on my project because I just want to get a woman on my project is disingenuous, you know? Like if you make hard shit, there's always gonna be people that are gonna fuck with it. And that's the bottom line.
I agree with it and I disagree with it. I agree with it in that that's the hip hop I love. You know, M said, growing up, it didn't matter what color you was. If you could spit, then you could spit. That's it. That's what it was, right? And right now, so much of what people see from hip hop is marketing. The person who pops up at the open mic and is super nice, and the people in the community respect it, but they never get that extra little push.
But that's because that artist that makes a decision to go to the open mics is not pushing themselves to the point to get to there.
yeah, but it's not an even playing field from the jump. You know,
It
even
is.
if you push it, it's not though,
well-
because systematically, women and queer folk and people of color, they are on different levels in terms of resources, even unconsciously. The same folks, that are at the open mic and how they're pushing themselves, each time they push themselves, there are other people that kind of validate them or allow them in higher and higher up, and they see this, this dope white rapper, and then they see this young women of color rapper, and then it's just like, you're like, well, this is what I'm more familiar with. This makes more sense to me, so I'm just gonna go with it, right? People are just
What don't
choosing
make
what they're
dollars
comfortable
don't make
with.
sense to the industry, my boy. They don't sign shit unless it make money and streams. And if it's good and it gets streams, they signing it. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, sure, if it makes money, if it makes
But look at
streams.
Lil Nas X is gay. He's motherfucking top of the world right now.
Yeah, but
Listen-
that's one gay rapper in a world of 100 straight rappers, or more, thousands.
Then get out there and do it, my boy. Come on,
Yeah,
if he can
it
do
ain't
it, you
that
can do it,
easy.
homie. Straight up.
I've always wanted to be a rapper. 3, 2, 1, go.
I grew up in a neighborhood in a time where it was the aftermath of the war on drugs. So I lost my father to gun violence when I was 4. And, he was shot 22 times. I lost a lot of friends and relatives. And then when I heard 50 Cent Get Rich or Die Trying album, it was like, he's telling my story, I feel. He carried me through a time where it was a war going on in the hood. And I was like, man, I feel like I want to do what he's doing and offer that same hope to people in my community and share my story, you know? So yeah, I knew once I was like 11, 12 that I wanted to rap, you know?
I like that, man.
So the first time I ever wrote rhymes, I was 5 years old. I saw Run DMC as the musical guest on All That. I busted out my composition notebook and I was like, that was a sick song. I gotta write all the lyrics. I had the beat in my head. I wrote lyrics from my own memory. It was probably whack as shit. I was like 5 years old, but I showed it to my uncle the next day and I was like, yo, check this out. I wrote this like Run DMC remix. And he was like, this is fire. You gotta keep this up. And I say from that moment, that was like, this is what I need to do. I need people to hear my lyrics. I take pride in my penmanship and I just want everybody to appreciate the lyrics.
For me, I feel like it was after high school, but like I was freestyling in high school and stuff, and like the homies was like, yo, you kind of fire with the freestyling, but like I never took it serious. And I was like, nah, school is not it. At a certain point, I was like, yeah, rap, music, it's fire, so.
I don't know, I started fucking up in school towards the end. I wasn't feeling that shit, you know, and I just fucking started grinding with the rap shit, you know. I never had no job. Luckily, I fucking, right away, like my first shit started taking off, so I just kind of like, that's when I wanted to be a rapper, you know? Like, is once I started seeing, like I dropped my first bullshit song and that shit started going crazy, and then we just repeat and repeat and repeat, and that's when I want to be a rapper, but.
I definitely not always wanted to be a rapper. Actually, Rico Pabon is a Puerto Rican rapper from New York, very underground, was the first time that I saw like a contemporary Latino rapper that was doing something, and I think that's when I first started to think that like, oh, I guess Latinos, you know, that kind of look like me can be in rap.
So I grew up in Delaware, you know what I'm saying? Like as a Chinese kid in like, you know, suburban Delaware, there weren't a lot of those kinds of voices from the margins. It was hip hop that was like giving me that guidebook, giving me those pathways through.
Facts.
So because of that, I've always wanted to be a rapper. And like KRS once said, right? I am hip hop. It's not something I do, it's not something that I try to do, it's just who I am, and that's where it comes from for me.
Rap is damaging to young people. 3, 2, 1, go.
I think it can be, because you can put some like really young kids on to like what we was just talking about, money, sex, drugs, and like that's typically for older people, I would say. Like, you know, once you graduate high school, it's like more common to be around that stuff, but like, you know what I mean? I think it can just like, I don't know, it can be damaging, you know what I mean? Like,
Movies, music, video games, like to put blame on all that stuff for influencing people, like their actions, I don't know, to listen to something and then act on it and then blame that for what you did, that's just a cop-out, you know, so.
I would say because if a mind is not fully developed and they're exposed to a certain kind of rap too early, then it can distort like their perspective on things if the parent isn't there to introduce it to them. So for my son, I'm not gonna play, you know, an Eminem album to him or whatever, or a T Grizzly project. Now, when he's older, I'll lay the foundational principles down about, okay, here's life and here's what this means. And I would say your music should evolve, right? So for me, if I grew up on a corner when I was 13 and now I'm traveling to LA doing a show, I should talk about that and not just say, yeah, I'm still on the block robbing people, because I'm lying. You know what I mean? Like, people want to grow with their artists and the people they look up to. Like what we see Jay-Z doing with 444, like.
Talking about
you know,
manhood, talking about success, and dealing with,
and acknowledging his mistakes and also, you know, walking people through that process. That's important, you know.
It sounds so weird because it's like going against my argument about the bitch thing, but it's really how I feel though. Like, I don't fuck with how so many people like are promoting all this drug use and shit and pills. You know what I'm saying? One of my brothers OD'd like a fucking month ago, you feel me? If you're gonna talk about it, you also need to let motherfuckers know, especially if your audience is younger people coming up. I think you should have a responsibility to say like, you know, at least let them know what the fuck they're getting into, you know? If I'm not promoting that shit, they're gonna go to someone who is, you know? If the same way to say like, I could tell people as much as I want, don't pop perks, don't do pills. For the people who really wanna do that shit are gonna go, they're not gonna wanna hear me, you know? They're gonna wanna hear people who are talking about that shit. So I guess, I don't think me having a song can really make a motherfucker change his life around, you know? Like,
dang,
obviously.
don't undervalue yourself, G. I feel like, I mean, think about yourself. You're in music because music also means something to you, right?
Yeah.
It's resonated and built so much value in you and built yourself up. Like, yeah, maybe not one song, but it's an entry point. It's a door that opened up. And, you know, to kind of tie back into the conversation, I think even beyond being artists and creators, we have responsibility as men, as members of the community, right? To be thoughtful with our actions, right? Considerate with our words. And then especially as creators, just to know that our shit exists beyond us for the positive and the negative. And to just take that in stride and understand there's only consequence from our actions, good and bad.
that is officially a wrap.
Hey.
Oh, oh shit. All right. Hey, here you go.
Good shit, bro.
Good to meet you.
Shit, boy. Hey, my boy. Appreciate you. You get your flag. Yeah, absolutely.